Today I had the chance to speak with MSU's head coach Danton Cole about Islanders prospect Christian Krygier. And while we spent a good chunk of the discussion talking about him, the discussion goes for a while. We talk near 20 minutes, but I swear to God it's chock full of really interesting information, not just about Christian Krygier, but about Butch Goring and Lou Lamoriello. You'll want to listen to the whole thing. So here's my chat with Danton Cole, head coach for MSU. So I wanted to chat with you about Christian Krygier, just because as Islanders fans, we don't really talk about him a whole lot. As a seventh round from 2018, and he's more of a defensive defenseman. He doesn't put up a lot of points, so he doesn't attract a lot of attention. But I'd just like to start with, you've been there since the beginning with Christian. He's been there 4 years now. What type of player is he in your opinion?
Yeah, you know what? He's a he's a pretty big physical young man, and he skates real well. And when he came here, he and his brother, they're twins that came here at the same time, and they were in college hockey. Most of our freshmen are 19. A lot of them are 20 years old, and they came in as really young guys as true freshmen. And it's the league we're in is tough, and it's like being a rookie, 18-year-old in the NHL. You jump in and you learn a lot, and they have. Christian year after year has just gotten a little better and a little better. But he's like I said, he skates well, he gaps up well. He's learning to kind of figure out offensively, and he scored the other night, which was nice. But just to move pucks and join the rush and get pucks on net from the blue line, and just a lot of the automatics that a defenseman has to do to play in the NHL, he's just kind of adding those year by year. So it's been a lot of fun coaching him, and he had a great spring and summer, and he gained a little weight and grew a little, and so he's a big body, and I think he's got a chance to play a little bit.
So when I hear about defensemen, and one of the things that they have to work on, specifically when it gets to getting to the pros, it's applying a more consistent game, right? Like when we talk about like Robin Salo or even Samuel Bolduc in the Islanders system, these are guys that the one, maybe not criticism, but the one thing that coaches want from them more often is we want to see more consistent effort. Is that something you see from Christian over these 4 years, just applying a more consistent effort year over year? Or has it just been there from like year one for him?
Yeah, I would say his effort's always been really good. I mean, he works hard, but I would say a consistent level of play is maybe a better way to describe it, and that's improved. And we talk a lot about if there's offensive defensemen, and we all know those guys, and they put up huge numbers, and everybody loves them, but there's not a lot of them, but there's a lot of good defensemen that. We say, hey, they're like referees, and when they have a good game, you don't notice them so much, and they move pucks and they defend, and you get done with a 10-game segment, and you look at it, and you're like, Jesus, this young man's plus 10, and no goals scored against on the penalty kill, and you know what I mean? Like they add up numbers like that, and it's just a lot of quality minutes. So and that's he's kind of developing into that. He's he's got to be a pretty good penalty killer. Like I said, he's tall and he's pretty long, and he's learning his angles and his recoveries, and how to block shots from the flank, and just again he keeps adding stuff to his repertoire, and then you can find him out in all kinds of different situations. And the other night we're playing Penn State, which is a really good offensive team, and he logged a lot of ice when we had a 1-goal lead with the last 5 minutes of the game, and even the last minute he's out there the whole time. So he's a guy that worked his way in a lot of situations, and that's what you want to see in a defenseman. And, just big and steady, and he is capable offensively. And I do think that at some point, as everything comes together, that there might not be big flashy numbers, but he's going to get a share of assists, and I think he'll end up doing okay with that.
Yeah, like the numbers aren't necessarily there over his first couple of years, right? Max like 3 points over a year. But like you're saying, for a defense-first defenseman, you're more worried about, do I notice him for the wrong reasons, or is he quiet because he's keeping everyone else quiet? and that's kind of his game right now. And, well, that's what his game over the first 3 years. But now he's got 6 points, right? Like he's putting up numbers. And that goal last night or 2 nights ago, oh my God.
Yeah, it was a nice goal. No, I think he's settled into it, and and understanding his role, and I do think defensemen take a little bit more time, and goalies take the longest, and defensemen take a little more. And as an ex-forward, I can say that's an easy position to play. So I'm not out of line, but I think like I said, I think he's learning it, and sometimes it's learning to hit a lot of singles and be really productive and realize that you don't have to hit a home run every time you're on the ice. And that's when he's good. Like I said, he's big and steady and he's moving pucks, and he's learning how to set up a forecheck and manipulate the forecheck and do some things like that, and you can have a real impact on the game when you start doing a lot of those things well.
So a couple of questions or answers back. You said that I think he could play a bit. Does that, like you saying, I think he could be a good pro? And that's not necessarily saying he's going to be an NHLer and a really good one at that, although he could very well be. But do you see him going pro and being a solid pro with what he's been doing so far?
Yeah, I think he does have a chance. And, the biggest thing, a lot of guys, they kind of cap out and, you see what they got at 17 or 18 and then that's kind of where they're at. And usually that's not good enough to be in the pros. Sometimes it is. But I like the guys that, are trending up every year. And that's what he's done. And, he's pretty hungry and, he dedicated a lot of on ice and off ice time last summer, and I think if he keeps that up, there's not a lot of surefire guarantees, but I think he has a good chance to be a good pro.
So, what would set him apart if he were to hit the pros? Like, what would be his kind of calling card? Obviously, maybe defense first guy, but what would be the one thing that sets him apart from other guys who are going pro?
Well, I don't know if it sets him apart, but he's a big body and he's long, and that's extreme. Maybe you got a few of those guys on the Islanders right now that are extremely effective. I think one thing that he has that not a lot of guys, I think it's missing in the game a little bit, is he's got a pretty good edge to him, and he's not afraid to be physical, and there's not a lot of guys that intimidate a lot anymore, but guys know when he's out on the ice, and that's a good thing. So, I think there's that, and like I said, just the maturity that he's gaining and the work that he's putting in and building his resume year by year. And I think he's going to be ascending that way. He's a good position to be in.
Yeah, you talk about that physicality, and I've heard a few coaches like Antti Pennanen for Team Finland spoke about that with another Islanders prospect, Matthias Rajaniemi, saying like he needs to develop his meanness. And when you talk to Matthias, he's like, I just don't, it's not natural to me, so it's hard. But for Christian, that's there. It's not to say that he's going out there hunting heads or anything. It's just he knows when to be physical and he knows how to move people. And he's got, like you said, that edge that is naturally there that is obviously going to set him apart from other guys. And that's obviously a good thing.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's a very good thing. And, a lot of, like I said, I don't know, it's just what it is these days, but it's different than it used to be. But, when you find guys that are physical and they like playing that way and playing hard, it's a good thing. And, you look at all the teams that win, and they're big and they're strong and they play heavy, and I think Christian can do that.
Yeah, you say in the other days, like, so you used to be an NHL player. You played for the Islanders, Toronto, Chicago, Ottawa, my hometown. Or sorry, not Ottawa. My bad. I'm looking at something else here. Islanders, Chicago. When you were on the island, what was it like then? So that we're talking about 95, 96, right? What was it like with like Mike Billberry? Lauren Henning was the coach, I believe, at that time as well.
Yeah, Mike was a coach when I was there. So
right.
I wasn't. That was my last little kick at the can in the NHL, and I think I played 10, 12 games there. So I wasn't there a lot. I was mostly playing for Butch Goring in Utah, which I really enjoyed. I mean, that's a pretty amazing guy. So I really loved playing for Butch. But yeah, I was just there for a little bit, and lived mostly in the hotel there, right by the Coliseum. So I don't know if I got a great feel for it, but you know what? It's a pretty historic franchise, and I was a hockey guy, in growing up, and right when the Islanders were great. So it was always kind of cool being around, and some of the older guys would, Bob Bourne and guys like that would pop through, and it's just kind of neat seeing them at the rink. And those were guys that when I was younger, you followed them, and Kenny Morrow and guys like that, and I know Kenny a little bit, and just what a fantastic thing. So for me, that was more of a historical thing to kind of be around it even for just a little bit. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, so I won't ask you about that 11-game losing streak that year, because while I look at your game score, your game logs, you weren't around. You came right after that when they started winning at the end of the year. But maybe touching on playing.
That must have been the trick. Should have had me up earlier. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. They brought you up and started winning again. But on Butchie, we know him pretty well for his broadcasting and like these Butchieisms, right? Where he talks about the toy department a lot. Is there any Butchieisms that he had as a coach, like things he would say going like, that there's only one person who would say that, and it's Butch Goring?
You know what? I wish I could. I'm always not real great at that, but I do remember some of the things, and I think they had to change some rules, like when pulling the goalie and towards the end of the game, if you're behind, and you have the goalie leave a stick on the goal crease, and the shootout in the old IHL, you had to use everyone on the bench, and if it was getting tight down to the end of the game, you'd have guys slide back in the locker room, and all of a sudden you only got 7 guys on the bench, and all your best shootout guys are sitting there, and all the other guys aren't on the bench anymore. And it's pretty interesting. In the late in the game, I think one time we were down 5-on-3, and we're up by a goal, and we're coming off a 5-on-3, and he just sent another guy out on the ice, and he's like, well, so if we touch it, they just blow the whistle, so just go, you know what I mean? That's better than getting scored on. And you got 3, you can't get too many men on the ice. Now, I think all of those are penalties now, or at least goalie sick and putting too many men on the ice intentionally in that situation. But I do remember him. I thought he was a sharp guy, and we had a really good team, and it was just a lot of fun to, again, being around somebody like Butch Goring. I mean, but just how kind of down to earth he was, and he loved killing penalties. At the end of practice, we had the power play. We'd be zipping it around, and I was kind of the same way. And I not maybe so much anymore. I'm a little older now, but my younger days, and especially when I was coaching alone, I jumped into drills, and I always thought it looked like fun when Butch was doing it, and it was. So no, I just, like I said, I just thought a lot of him, man, and I thought as a hockey mind, he was real interesting to play for. Especially I was a little older at the time, and I'd been around a little bit, and just to kind of appreciate somebody to look at the game that way.
Yeah, those are great stories. Like you see just recently with Sergei Fedorov out in the KHL pulling the goalie in overtime to get the 4th man out. Like that's next level thinking, kind of like with Butchie going like, all right, well, just leave the goalie stick or send guys to the showers early on the shootout. Why not? Wow, that is super smart. Okay, so my last one here is that you also played for the Devils. You've got a cup ring with the Devils. Congrats on that. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
What was it like playing under Lou Lamoriello, who's now the GM for the Islanders? Like, what was it like under him?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was in a trade with Sean Chambers coming over, and I don't think I was a big part of that, but came over and got to be around just a great team, and Jacques Lemaire and Larry Robinson, and what a couple fantastic guys that I watched playing growing up, but the way Lou ran a team, and and it wasn't loud. It wasn't like he was around all the time and barking out orders, but just the professionalism of the way everything was run. Just from, hey, this is the way we do it. You know what I mean? It's buttoned up. It was real professional. It's just something that when I've in pro hockey, I've been sometimes at the lower levels, you're the GM and coach, and in college you've got a lot of control over travel and how you do things. And I just he's a guy that I've tried to emulate that professionalism, and you can be hard, and you can be honest, and you can do things the right way and treat people the right way. And like I said, I was just really impressed with him, and I've had the opportunity to see him a few times over the years, whether when I was coaching the U.S. team or see him at the draft. And again, he's always gracious. I mean, he treated me like I was a playoff MVP. He's just, like I said, just a really genuine guy. And like I said, I try and emulate a lot of the just the way, like I said, just the way he was professional. And when I got traded there, my middle daughter, my wife was 9 months pregnant, so Sean and I flew in, and we got there, and then 4 a.m. My wife calls, and she's going into labor and going to the hospital. So I get on the phone and get the secretary, and I said, I gotta get back to Tampa. So boom, they got me on a flight right away. And by the time I got to the hospital, there was already flowers there from New Jersey Devils, and note there, hey, you got to do what you got to do, and let us know. And I mean, it was really nice. I was with the team for 12 hours, and they were just on top of everything. And that's 94, 95, and maybe before everybody was. Now I think it's more customary, and guys take a week off when their wife has a baby now. But I think back then it was a little bit more. You did what you had to do. But again, just something he did that stuck with me for a long time, and how you treat people, and you take care of family, and you take care of the players, and it's just the right thing to do. So, like I said, I was very impressed with him, and Jacques Lemaire and Larry Robinson. If I hadn't played for them, I don't think I'd be coaching. And I think I'm in my 23rd or 24th year. So for a short time, they're a big impact on me and my family.
So I just want to, that's a super class act by Lou, right? And that's kind of what we hear throughout, just taking care of anyone and everyone, even if it's, like you said, a guy who's been there for, 12 seconds type of thing. But one last thing I want to touch on is you mentioned Jacques Lemaire, and we know that he's part of the Islanders as a special teams coach, or just not a special teams coach, a special assignment coach. What is his philosophy of coaching? We all remember the trap days with the New Jersey Devils. Obviously, that's not a thing anymore. But like, what makes that guy tick, at least from a coaching perspective?
Like I said, I had a good chance to kind of sit back and watch it and appreciate it. And I think his mind is unbelievable in terms of breaking down the game. And I think with they played the trap and this, and I don't know if people give him enough credit for how he ran things in terms of penalty kill, power play. It wasn't nearly as tight a structure as people thought, but he just did a good job at coaching and getting everybody on the same page and doing things the right way. The way he matched lines, and the Philly series was amazing in terms of matching up with Lindros, and you'd have two centers out there, and then one of them would change depending on the line they put out, and they'd mix the wingers on it. It was I've never seen a team on the road in the playoffs have the advantage on matchups. It was pretty, like I said, I was watching a lot of the games and kind of keeping track of things, and it was, like I said, the way he saw the game, and we'd come in, and it wasn't a real chatty guy, real pleasant man, but in between periods he'd come in and it'd be like, hey, they're doing this, and you know what, we've got to reverse, on the breakouts, and we can't get out of our zone, let's start doing this. Real simple. There'd be one or two changes, and all of a sudden the game would just open right up, and it was fascinating to see, and like I said, it wasn't overly complicated, but it was extremely intelligent, and it was fun to watch. And you try and emulate those things, and a lot of the way I run through practices and do our team meetings between periods are an awful lot like the way Jacques ran them. I'm probably not quite as smart, but I said, I learned an awful lot in a short time from those guys.
That's amazing. Danton, I appreciate all the insight from Christian to Butchie to Lou to Jacques. I really appreciate it. I hope the season continues going well, if not better, like 500 for now. Hopefully it continues getting better. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. Anytime. Just if you need something, let me know.
Perfect. Thank you very much.